say, give this president nothing, and give the people what they wanted, which is Trump and the control of both houses to the Republicans, and see what happens, and then reap the rewards. I don't necessarily know that that's in congressional Democrats' DNA. They believe in government. I'm not saying that Republicans don't. I'm just saying that they believe in government and wanting to legislate and wanting to be a part of the discussion. So, I foresee them trying to work with President Trump and with Vice President Pence, which we haven't really talked about. It's going to be interesting to see who's really calling some of these shots here with Congress, if it's Trump or if it's Pence or if it's somebody else. So I think that you're going to hear over the next couple of months a lot of do what you want to do. We're gonna oppose everything. But I think, at least I hope, that cooler heads prevail going into the 115th Congress, and that we at least find some things, knowing that there are going to be a lot of things that we disagree on, that we at least find a few things that we can do together to move the country forward.
What would you tell some of the people in the Democratic Party, though, who may not be able to get past that anger stage right now, because they might take a relatively simple take on it and say, like, McConnell kept open a Supreme Court nomination until he got what he wanted. Like, why don't we go all out on opposition? I mean, what is the response from the Democratic leadership, who does, if they do want to cooperate, they do want to get a couple of wins on the board, they do want to make things work? How do you deal with people who are so angry right now and shocked that they're saying, I want them to fail, I want this burned into the consciousness that we don't cooperate with a Trump or a McConnell or a Ryan? What's that conversation like?
I don't know if you can have that conversation right now. I think you have to let that anger and that frustration, listen, a lot of people woke up on Wednesday stunned.
I think you're assuming that people slept.
Yeah. And that anger and that frustration is going to percolate for a little bit, and it's going to come in phases. For someone asked me, like, you seem pretty calm, you haven't snapped or anything, and I'm like, well, this is a conceptual thing right now. Let's see, once we start looking what the cabinet looks like and some of these federal judicial candidates, then I think you're going to see some frustration and anger. But for right now, I'm not sure that you can have that conversation. But I think as we go to the 115th Congress and we move into it, if you care about government, if you care about helping people, if you especially on the Senate side, if you believe you're an institutionalist and you believe in the institution moving it forward, then you at least have to try. Now listen, this might all collapse under its weight. I don't think anyone can say right now whether or not Donald Trump is President Donald Trump more like campaign Trump, or is there someone else that we haven't seen yet? Does a Mike Pence take a bigger role? Does he surround himself with smart people who've been there before and done this and, can kind of keep the trains on? We don't know any of these things. So, we might find ourselves in 6 months with, a strongman president where, both your red state Democrats and your blue state Democrats are like, we can't work with this man. We can't work with this Congress. And then you might see it, but we don't know. So to have that conversation, now seems a little bit premature.
Listen, I think there are things that President-elect Trump said as a candidate that I certainly don't agree with and didn't condone. But even the current sitting president said some things that haven't borne out very well now, given the outcome of the election. So my sense is that we probably ought to follow Secretary Clinton's advice, and let's all have a kind of an open mind, about this, and not judge people on either side kind of based on what they said in what was a really bitter contested campaign.
And long.
And long. Yeah. Let's do something about that. That should be the first area of bipartisan. Let's shorten these cycles. Jeez.
So we've talked about some of the, the people who we can look to for who might be, able to make things work in Washington, who would be occupying the power structure. Who are some of the, not to look too far back, but who are some of the people who are leaving Congress that are going to be the biggest losses? Who are the House Republicans going to miss the most on either side of the aisle, Neil?
Well, I won't hurt anyone's reputation on the Democratic side of the aisle by praising them, so I'll stick with my side. But you know, I think of John Klein, who, you know, maybe he didn't get all the press attention in the world, but was a really steady hand and one of the
outgoing chairman of
the Education Workforce Committee, which people think of the A committees and their productive nature, A committees, appropriations, and Ways and Means, and Energy and Commerce. It was an incredibly productive committee, even in divided government, who found ways to get things done that I didn't even think they could get done, whether that was elementary and secondary education or pension reforms. So, you know, I think of someone like that. You know, I look at the losses from Tuesday. It's on the other side of the building, but Kelly Ayotte was really a tremendous voice on military and foreign affairs issues that I think we're going to miss immensely.
What about you, Rodell?
Well, I think, and I won't speak too much for the House, and even though he wound up coming to play for our team, Democrats are going to miss Chris Van Hollen, especially as we're looking towards what the bench is going to look like for House Democrats and their leadership possibilities going forward. I'm glad that that Nancy Pelosi will be staying, but she can't be there forever. And you know, as Democrats, we need to start thinking about what that next generation of leadership looks like. You know, I'd be biased to on the Senate side, but I think we're going to miss Boxer just because I think the caucus is going to miss Boxer because she was just a you know, caucus deliberations are private, but you know, having somebody like that in your caucus who is always optimistic, who is always ready for the good fight, you know, is something that you need and someone that you want, especially maybe if you're a Democrat in days like this where you know you've just suffered some big losses. You know, and then of course, like I said, I don't want to be biased, but you know, I think sometimes you need a blunt instrument in your toolbox, and my former boss Harry Reid was that. He got the job done, and you know, I think history will bear out as you know people talk about who were good leaders. You know, he might not have always been the most on-message leader, but he got things done. He got things done for this president, and he protected his caucus while he was doing that. And as a caucus member, that's really all you can ask for, is someone who's there that has your back and protects you. So, you know.
I think also lost in a lot of the news from Tuesday's results is that, I mean, going back to your statement about Reid, is that in Nevada, you know, Senate candidate who no one acknowledged was a particularly great campaigner won 2 House seat flips and delivered, you know, helped deliver his get out the vote machine, helped deliver it for Hillary Clinton. Yeah. I mean, it stands as it's like the election when Nevada became like a part of the West Coast. Yeah. As opposed, it's an interesting result.
Yeah, a lot of people thought that Reid's push for the to have caucuses in Nevada as part of the first 4 in 2008 was a vanity project. It wasn't. It was about registering Democrats. It was about changing the demographics of that state. And because of it, you know, he won re-election in a year that no one thought he was going to win re-election. I think save an ethics scandal, I think Shelley would have won against Dean Heller, and now you know we have another Democratic senator taking his seat. So and I think his legacy, both in Nevada and also here in Washington D.C., is solidified.
You know, before we came on stage, we were talking a little bit about some of the legislative agenda, and one of the things that obviously is on everyone's mind is the budget reconciliation. For fancy terms, it's basically an expedited budget process.
51 votes rather than 60.
Right, that does not require. It's not, you know, you can't use Senate deliberation tactics, filibuster to slow it down. This looks like the most likely vehicle